Then let's move on. We've talked enough about planning the essay. Then we should talk about how we're going to write this essay and what's the structure going to be. So, like all essays, we need to have an introduction, body, conclusion. With this essay, the introduction is probably the unique part. Just like all essays, we start by paraphrasing the question, but then with an argumentative essay, we should then state our position, and the extent in this case. So the extent and whether we agree or disagree. Then we can move on to the body of the essay. Each paragraph should start with what's called a topic sentence. We'll look at this in a bit more detail, but basically the topic sentence introduces the key point of the paragraph. Then after this, we should write supporting sentences that develop the key point of the topic sentence. The supporting sentences should be focused on that key point. Then finally we come to our conclusion. We should start by summarizing our main points. Most students miss this out for some reason, but it's quite an important thing to do. And essentially we probably have 2 to 3 key points or key arguments in our essay. We should summarize those by rephrasing them here. Then finally we should give an opinion or recommendation, or perhaps restate our position. This should be based on our summary. It should fit together closely with our summary. Alright, let's look at each part in a bit more detail. First of all, the introduction. As I mentioned, we should paraphrase the question, and that's done here. Technology is being used increasingly in the classroom, and some people believe that educators will become redundant. Then we move on to stating our position. I somewhat disagree that teachers will be replaced by machines because they are essential to motivate students and teach moral values. However, I think that the internet is providing a lot of interesting opportunities in the field of education. Now, this is quite a long position. I would say at a minimum you need to have this first part. I somewhat disagree that teachers will be replaced by machines. Now, the reason, which are really my key points, that's optional, but I would recommend for students that are wanting to get 7 or higher that they do include this part, because it just helps to develop the task a little bit better and convince the reader of your arguments. Essentially, they're going to get your arguments 3 times. They're going to get them in the introduction, they're going to get them again in the body, and then they're going to get them in the final paragraph when you summarize them. So this is a very powerful way to convince someone, to give them the key points 3 times. In this case, after the examiners read your essay, they should have a very clear idea of what your position is and also the reasons for it. So that's why I say, if you're looking for a 7 or higher, then this is one of the ways of achieving it. Now moving on to the body of the essay, each paragraph in the body should start with a topic sentence. And for our argumentative essay, again, this doesn't apply for all essay types, but for argumentative essay, we should have a sequencing word. We should repeat the topic of the essay, and then we should give our point or reason. So if we look at this in more detail, we've got the sequencing word here, the main reason, then the topic, why I think that teachers are essential, and then the reason is because they encourage and discipline students. Okay, so there's 3 parts to a good topic sentence. Again, if you're looking for a 7, you need these 3 parts to be in the topic sentence. It makes your task score higher because it's clearer for the examiner to see what your arguments are. It also helps your score for cohesion and coherence. Coherence is about understandability, and a good topic sentence makes it clear what your paragraph is going to be about. In some way it also helps your vocabulary and grammar score, because if you have errors with vocabulary or grammar, the effect of the matter is likely to be less if you've written a good topic sentence, because the examiner can probably figure out what you're trying to say even though there's an error. If you have an error and the examiner can't figure out what you're trying to say, the penalty for that is much greater. Then we want to develop our paragraph. We've got three ways to do this. We can add details, we can give explanations, or we can give examples. I've written some sample sentence for each type under here. We can see details. Part of a teacher's job is to make sure their students are learning. Explanation. Many people find it difficult to be interested in learning new things. Therefore, educators are needed to make classes more interesting and stimulate students' desires for learning. So you're trying to give reasons here. Then finally, you can give an example either of a famous person. An uncle's always good, even if you don't have an uncle, or even you can use yourself. We'll do this one with myself. For instance, when I was young, I would only do my homework if the teacher checked I did it. Actually, that's true. It's not so good that I'm a teacher, that I was a bad student, but in any case, many people have issues with motivation. Alright, moving on to the conclusion. First of all, summarize the main points or your main arguments. As I said, a lot of students leave this out. Again, if you're looking for a 7 or higher, this is really important. It contributes to your task response score. Not only that, again, it helps with the cohesion and coherence, which really is about the structure of your essay, and this is part of the structure of an essay, that the final paragraph summarizes the key points. It's helpful to the reader or the examiner because it refreshes them about what your main points were. So we can see in this case the summary. Signal word in summary, or you can have in conclusion, is fine also. I somewhat disagree that machines can replace teachers. This is because teachers can encourage students to learn and teach them how to interact with other people. Although computers do offer the ability for people to learn anywhere at any time. Then finally, we should give our final opinion or recommendation, or restate our position of our essay, and this should be based on our summary. It should make sense from the summary. These two should fit together. Again, if you're after a 7 or perhaps even an 8, for an 8 this is essential. For a 7 this is very helpful. So let's see what I've written. In my opinion, teachers will always be necessary, especially to teach youngsters. However, we should incorporate e-learning into school curriculums, especially for homework. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my presentation, and I also plan to make some more, so you can search for me on YouTube. And another thing you can do is you can go to my website. If you go there, you can see the complete essay that I've just been talking about, the replacing teachers with computers essay, argumentative essay. And then if you're interested in some of the other kinds of essays, essentially there's two other common types of essays in the IELTS exam, then you can also go to this link here. I've also included my email address if you wanted to contact me at all. If you had questions, I'd be happy to answer them.